wonderful people who continue to subscribe and listen to this podcast, and all you absolutely fabulous people who may be just now finding this. Maybe this is your first episode, so let us welcome you to Justice League Revisited, the podcast where myself and the voice of Wonder Woman, Susan Eisenberg, revisit each episode in its actual airing order, break it down with a special guest, and obviously, as I just mentioned, we've got the voice of Wonder Woman, Susan Eisenberg, sitting right across the iPhone from me. Hi, Susan.
Hi, it's me. Good to see your face.
I know. It's always good. I enjoy recording these. It's always so much fun. It's like my little creative outlet.
It's fun because also we're not waiting for a phone to ring for somebody to hire us or, it's ours. And so there's such freedom in that and such creativity in that. And it can be whatever we want it to be. And I'm digging it. And I hope the people listening, I hope the listeners, I've gotten some really sweet feedback, by the way. And one person actually said they love our chemistry.
What?
And I know. And that they think that we really play off of each other very well. So I was that made me happy.
That's
because
very kind. Yes.
I love that, right? So good job us.
No kidding. Yeah, I guess we're doing all right. Not too bad.
I think so. And this person who said it, not a liar.
Oh, good.
So I can trust this person. So yeah, anyway, better. I thought I'd pass that on. I know, I thought I'd pass that on to you.
Thank you for
So who's on the big show today?
Tonight, we're talking, I say tonight, I don't know what time it is when you're listening, whatever you're listening today. We've got someone who is going to bring some knowledge about the late, great Dwayne McDuffie, who wrote the teleplay for this episode we're listening to, Fury, which is the two-parter, obviously, episode 16 and 17, the 8th story overall, directed by Butch Lukic, writer Stan Berkowitz, teleplay by Dwayne McDuffie. The first part aired on April 7th, 2002 on Cartoon Network. Second part was April 14th, 2002. We have a Dwayne McDuffie scholar on, and this is going to be some great insights. Taimur Dar. He runs a social media account for the Dwayne McDuffie estate. He's a writer for Comics Beat, and he's going to bring some great insights. It's hopefully going to be the next best thing to having Dwayne on the podcast, which obviously we would love to have done, but he left this world far too soon. But it's so exciting that people like Taimur have picked up the knowledge and are carrying on the conversation about Dwayne's work.
And so important. I mean, I think his work will always live on because it's so significant and special and entertaining, most of all. But then you have fans like Taimur, and he has such a well of knowledge and understanding and just insight into Dwayne's work. So I'm really looking forward to this one because I was as practically everyone, I'm sure, listening, huge fan of Mr. Dwayne McDuffie.
Yeah, so without further ado, let's bring him in to talk with us about Fury, to bring that Dwayne McDuffie knowledge. We have Taimur Dar with us. Did I say it correctly that time?
Correct, you did.
Perfect. All right, right out of the gate, look at me, first go around. I appreciate you coming on and talking with us today. This is very exciting to have you.
Same for me. Like I said, this is my, I don't really do appear on podcasts, so this is my first, and I'm honored and overjoyed to be on here.
Yeah, we're glad.
It's very exciting because we all know each other from social media, and we've met in person. And
Yes.
when you heard about the podcast, you and I were communicating by message, and you were like, if there's ever an opportunity, I would love to. And it's like, yes, please. So welcome to our podcast. And it's easy peasy. So you just tell us everything you know.
So let's start at the beginning. How old were you when you were born? I'm kidding. No. Talk a little bit, because we brought you on specifically because obviously you do run the Dwayne McDuffie social media page, and you're also a writer and a producer for Comics Beat. So you've got all this inside knowledge. Talk a little bit about how you got involved with the Dwayne McDuffie estate.
So like a lot of people, I adored Dwayne McDuffie's writing, as a kid. Static Shock, of course, was my entry. I didn't read a lot of comics at the time, but Saturday morning cartoons was my jam. Static Shock, kind of blew me away. It very much was like a Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man, and Static Shock was very much in the vein of Spidey. Again, I never read Dwayne's comics, but I just kind of maybe through the credits, I just knew he was the creator of it. And so I guess in my mind, I just kind of incorporated it. And so I think by Justice League season 2, I saw in the credits he was a story editor, and I just noticed the series just not that the first season was bad. I think Bruce Timm has said it was a safe season, but just by season 2, just that, it really resonated me or kind of took it to a whole new level. And it's like he wrote so many of the episodes, and I just, equated it. This Dwayne McDuffie guy, he really is a terrific writer. So I just kind of gravitated towards him. And so later in high school, I did kind of fall into comics. I read, he was, writing comics, Fantastic Four at the time, from Marvel, doing some other stuff, animation, the DC TV stuff. I just kind of followed him religiously because what his themes and just his writing style, his humor, just kind of spoke to me on a visceral level. And then I think by 2011, Paley Center, these do those DC direct-to-video premieres, hosted by the PR guy, Gary Mariano. He was there. I had the chance just to say something. To this day, I still regret it. Just, oh, hi, Dwayne. I really love your work. Didn't get a chance. I just was, had too much respect for him. I just was too shy or whatever. Had that one chance or one or two chances, didn't say anything. And then sadly, a week or two later, passed away. That really affected me, on a deep level. This person that I so admired, just, gone, so young. Mm-hmm. And so, a year later, they hosted his final direct-to-video, Just Like June, which you were in, Susan. Mm-hmm. I showed up, I just got there barely in time before they closed the doors. And I'm kind of glad I did, because sitting right behind me was his widow, Charlotte Fullerton, with her dad. I actually, at the time, I kind of knew Charlotte from her animation work. And so by the time the the panel and the film premiere ended, she got up with her dad. Took this one chance, said, I missed saying hi to Dwayne, not going to miss this chance with Charlotte. Said, hey, excuse me, Miss Fullerton? Yes. Hi, I'm Taimur Dar. I'm a huge fan of both your work and your husband's. Just wanted to say hi. I was like, oh, thank you so much. And so that was, like Casablanca, the beginning of a beautiful friendship, as it were. And then basically just over time, social media, back in the heyday when it wasn't the talk successful it is today, we just, chatted, just every so often. And then eventually, we got to know each other. Then by San Diego, by the time maybe 2017, I kind of was writing to the beat. We just, were comfortable enough with each other just to hang out in San Diego, in the professional lounge. And so at the time, Charlotte, for those who don't know, Charlotte Fullerton, she has her own, career in animation.
Yes.
And so she wanted to keep her, late husband's, legacy alive, and she couldn't do it all on her own. So at that point, she kind of trusted me because I know so much about Dwayne, just, as a fan and just, almost academic. I want to say academically, but I really have been studying his work. I didn't really study writing, in college or anything, but I kind of have watching his stuff. It really did give me the foundations of storytelling. And so I really did look at his work, set after his passing and on a deeper level. So I think she kind of knew at that point I kind of had a deeper understanding of Dwayne's work than the kind of average fan. So she kind of trusted me just to, help her, with social media. Because, I'm sure, as you know, Susan, it's hard enough just to devote both your career and social media.
Especially in the beginning. It's so difficult to get going and figure it out. So, so you helped her navigate.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so since then, she's, we've just gotten to know each other. It's really deepened a relationship. We just say, oh, hi. It's funny. I just chatted to her a few hours ago. Say, hey, I'm going to be on the Just Like Revisited podcast. And she said, oh, yeah, be sure to say, give me a hug for Susan, or like say hi to Susan for me. So she says hi.
Well, please give her a hug back.
I don't know her, but give her a firm handshake from me, since I don't know her as well as Susan. So,
okay, yeah. Let's be appropriate.
Right.
And so from then, because I mean, you're like almost a spokesman for Dwayne at this point. I discovered you because every time I wrote anything about the series, you were always there to gently bring up Dwayne. And I brought up Dwayne a lot, actually, because I've always believed in crediting the writer, the director.
Oh,
And you would always acknowledge that. And I think, I always respected that about you, that you were keeping his name out there. And I think that has been hugely important. Not that, his body of work speaks for itself. But how fantastic that you, out of your fandom, out of your respect, got to know Charlotte and now really run this account.
Yeah, it's also it's both an honor and a challenge because Dwayne, no longer with us, so I don't want to say anything that, speak for him.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. You don't want to speak. It's like I said, it's both an honor and a challenge because, like I said, I have so much respect for him, but I don't want to do anything that in some way disrespects his legacy.
Sure.
But Charlotte, like I said, she trusts me implicitly, so I'm not going to try to, like I said, the way social media is, pick fights or do something that I feel isn't in keeping with his legacy.
Sure.
Obviously, I'm sure Dwayne had very liberal views.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's safe to say he would not have liked the previous administration, but I don't go out of my way to bash it. But there are, funny enough, I highly recommend people to read his demon storyline called Political Asylum, where Etrigan the demon runs for office, and it very much predicts a lot of stuff that's happened in the political sphere for the last few years. So,
wow.
I bring that up whenever I can because it does feel appropriate and kind of shows, again, just how brilliant Dwayne was, that he could write about politics, but pretty much predict what was happening in the last few years.
Well, we hear, we've interviewed Stan Berkowitz, Dan Reba. We've interviewed a lot, of people connected to the show, writers, directors, and everyone who mentions Dwayne uses the word genius. And they don't use it for everybody. It's not like they're throwing the word around. And so, it's not surprising to me that he would be able to predict certain things because I think he just had this sense, emotional intelligence that, I think really allowed that to happen. And, just even when's the last time you watched the episode that we're going to be talking about today, Fury? When's the last time you had seen that?
I think, like I said, season one, like I said, I create season one Justice League with The Office or Parks and Rec because, they're good, but I like the later seasons later because, like you said, as you said in previous episodes, there's kind of a learning curve. You're kind of still finding your voices, even, the actors and the creators.
Right.
So I think, like I said, there's some episodes I love, but I think I haven't watched them since they actually aired season one. So 2002, I want to say.
Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, the rewatch is always because we talked about this with one of our last guests. I think it was Len. We had him on, and we were saying that going back when I was watching it, I was just enjoying seeing all these comic book characters come to life, brilliantly voice acted and brought to life by the writers and the directors. But now this revisiting of it, I'm watching with a much more critical eye, and I'm learning things, especially now that I've been talking to Susan and Phil and Dan and all these people for quite a while now. I'm picking up on things I never picked up on before, and I'm looking more of almost like an English major would look at a book and really kind of look for themes and cues. And that's one of the things I noticed with this episode in particular. You've got some really strong themes in there, and Dwayne always was a masterful storyteller, and you see it all come through at the very end of, like, throughout the episode. It just kind of comes together so nicely. It was such a great episode.
Yeah, it's perfectly said. Like I said before, I saw this middle school, high school, and obviously 20 years later, my emotional intelligence, just my intelligence is so different.
Yes.
And so I definitely have, look things more with a critical eye and just my own experience, bring in things that I didn't know or didn't really experience when first time I watched these.
And it was great being introduced to all these characters. I mean, when we were discussing Warworld, and we're going to discuss it again, very small cast. And this has a lot of different characters, which I was intrigued by. I had not seen this episode for a very long time, and it really held me. I think some of that is Susan Sullivan is just a heartbreaker. And, every time I'm able to do anything with her, it just resonates with me. But just the subject matter, the actors in this episode, it was just, it was really current also. And we put it out on social media that we were going to have you on today, and we did get a bunch of questions. I'm not sure, James, there were so many.
Yeah, I'm looking through the feed now to try to pick out the Fury questions from the War World questions now. Yeah, because we had a bunch of, obviously, them come in all at once. This is probably one we've got. Girl with Cello wants to know, and this is probably something you can answer, Susan. What was it like to have like Dwayne McDuffie? Because we talked about having the writers and the directors there when you're recording. Was there a different? I can't imagine there wouldn't be kind of a different energy when you've got Dwayne in, because Phil and him had that connection. They were like, oh, Phil recognized a lot of the comic book stuff. Did you, Susan, feel like a different vibe with the Dwayne stories?
I just adored him. I didn't know him very well. There was that glass partition between, in the booth, right? So the actors are on one side and the the producer, writer, director on the other, engineer on the other side. And it wasn't chummy with both sides. It's not like you're all hanging out during the break. It's very separate. But there was something about Dwayne that there was just a kindness and a sweetness to him that I felt. And when I would tease him about like some of the things I had to do in the episode, because it's a very physical episode, so much ADR, there was always a smile, always a smile from him. And he just melted me. I will never say we were close. We weren't. But there was something about him and his sense of these characters and the humor he brought to these characters that forever will touch me because it had such an impact. And now it's even greater, because I just have such a deeper appreciation for everything connected to the show than I did even when I was doing the show, which was a lot of appreciation, but now it's even greater. So, yeah, there was always like a wink, wink. And I would tease him about like all the stuff he'd make me do as an actor, because the character, it was so physical. The scenes were so physical, but, just enormous respect and affection. That's,
It's funny. I was going to ask you, like, the first time you met Dwayne, like I said, I had respect for him, but you see photos of him, I think people have talked about, he's obviously, Dwayne's like 6'7". He doesn't smile a lot in those photos, but it's funny you say he was just so warm and, smiling. Like I said, I'm curious, like when you first met him, were you intimidated, like I said, by his size or just?
No, and I was, blissfully or ridiculously ignorant to a lot of these people because I didn't come from a comic book background or cartoon background. So it wasn't like, oh my God, that's Dwayne McDuffie. There wasn't that sense of awe yet. But I kind of, listen, no one's going to say Bruce Timm is warm and cuddly. No one's going to describe Bruce Timm that way. But whenever I see Bruce, I just go in and, for the hug. I think I had that approach with Dwayne that I just, from a distance, I just adored him. And so I think that came through in, for him. And he was always lovely to me. I never found him intimidating. He just was this lovely man sitting on the other side of the glass who would smile at me when I would be, seriously, Dwayne? Seriously, I have to get electrocuted and then I have to climb this thing and then I have to fall. Like, he was just lovely.
Yeah, you had some damage done to you, because that's one of the notes I had written down for this episode was lots of action, especially in the second part. I think you get thrown off of a plane, thrown through a wall, you get hit with a computer console, you're electrocuted, you're blasted several times by both cannon fire from the plane and from Star Sapphire. You took a beating this episode.
Ass got kicked. And I just have to say, I mean, it was, and that's what I would tease him about, because, you know, he was there and he was, you know, and it was just ridiculous how much how much abuse I took in this episode. I'm supposed to be a superhero, for God's sake. You know, there's always vulnerability with these characters, which I so appreciate, because no matter how strong we are, we're always at a point where we can get our asses kicked. And in this episode, boy, was that ever true. James, did you want to mention who directed this episode?
Sure. Yeah. Obviously, we've got we have the director as Butch Lukic, the writer is Stan Berkowitz, with the teleplay by Dwayne McDuffie. And we had the great cast, obviously, Arigia, who is an original character for this series, voiced by Julie Bowen, who also voiced Zatanna in Batman the Animated Series. Star Sapphire's back from Injustice for All, voiced by Olivia Dabo. We had Sakuri, who's a brand new character again, just for this episode. Karen Maruyami. We had Hippolyta, played by Susan Sullivan once again. And I love the voice actors we had, like in the very beginning, Susan, when you're in the department store. We have Maggie Wheeler and Vanessa Marshall, and they're playing, you know, shopkeepers and customers. And some of the lines, I love the, easy for you to say, Miss Cheekbones.
Right.
And he said, you'll be able to beat the men off with a stick. You go, I don't need a stick. Just it was
stick. You know,
hilarious.
Hilarious. And a lot of these lines are used over and over and over again. Like men, you know, like that whole thing. And it's really interesting because there are gifts out there and they're always the same. I see a lot of these things and these lines repeated back to me all the time. You know, I don't need a stick, all this stuff. And it was so fun revisiting it because, like I said, I hadn't seen it in a really long time. And that's just, I love that stuff. And I love, even though she's not trying to be funny, she's quite serious. I just love the comedy. You know, I wish I'd gotten to play more of it as the character, but I love it when it's there. It's
very, you know, funny enough, Dwayne, huge Star Trek fan. I don't know if this was an influence on that scene or Wonder Woman, but looking at now, I just got into Star Trek myself, but it's very Spock-like, you know, in this situation or in general.
Yes.
He doesn't do that second layer, like stick. He doesn't, you know, it's a, you know, fish out of water.
And everything's so literal for her. You know, it's so literal. She doesn't get the, you know, the joke. She's not in on the joke. I mean, there's something so naive and, you know, she's been so protected. And that also means protected from humor in a man's world. And, you know, but I'm always stunned by how cranky she can be. Because when you think of her, like in her most ideal self, and I'm talking about Wonder Woman, she's, you know, she's so compassionate and so kind and so, you know, not judgmental. And yet in this series, you know, there's a little bit of a cranky factor. There is a little bit of judgment. It's fascinating, you know, because there's a little bit of humanity in that, you know, in who she is in this series.
I was just going to say, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the supporting cast, you know, particularly Vanessa Marshall. It's funny enough, I'm sure, I don't know if you mentioned it, she auditioned for Wonder Woman, I believe, for this series, didn't get it, but obviously Andrea Romano liked her enough to bring her in. So I think it's funny, Vanessa did eventually play Wonder Woman in Justice League Crisis on Two Earths and on a whole bunch of other stuff. So I love how you didn't get the part this time. Don't worry, something else works out. She just felt like
well, I think Bruce Timm loved her, and I think, you know, Bruce has been vocal about that. I think he is a huge fan of hers. She's done a lot of stuff for him. She's played Wonder Woman over and over and over again in different movies and different iterations. So, you know, for whatever reason I got the job, she's still, you know, beloved by that group, the Andrea Romano, the Bruce Timm. So, yeah, that's just, I got lucky. That's all. I got lucky with this, you know, very lucky, very, 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 very lucky, because Vanessa is I'm a huge fan of Vanessa's. I know her very well, and woof, I got lucky. That's all I'll say.
We had another question regarding this episode, which I thought was interesting because we talked tangentially about it in the very beginning, from Ivan PRE, the numeral 4 on Twitter, said, really interested in everyone's thoughts about Fury in a post-Me Too world. Because again, this episode was written over 20 years ago. It's still very relevant, but but Ivan's question is, how different would everyone, the writers, actors, etc., have done this episode if it were produced today? And I think that's an interesting question.
Well, and it would have been really nice 20 years later had we had some women writers in the room. That's, as we move on with this podcast, you and I have talked about it a lot, that we haven't had a single woman on the podcast yet because all the writers, all the directors, with the exception of Andrea and Kelly, one of the engineers, there weren't that many women. Now, I was struck by this episode, how timely it would be today. And unfortunately, I can't say so much has changed. In fact, I think we've gone backward. We've taken some giant steps backward. I would only hope that if this were being written today, it would be written, not that Dwayne and Stan didn't do it justice, wink, wink, but, hopefully there'd be some women in that room and we would have talked to a couple of directors who were women and writers who were women already. Did you have a sense of that? Do you have any takeaway from this in terms of the Me Too movement? Either one of you.
I think, I was struck. There's one particular scene I don't want to talk about it now, but it's a scene where the driver, he's on a break. He doesn't let the woman pass. He's double parked. It's like, hey, I need to get to a doctor's appointment. I'm a break lady. I think I appreciate that. It's actually more. I like it. It's subtle than I remembered or expected. I think it's just toxic masculinity that we still see today. I think what I expect, like I said, women's still a crank, but I think she doesn't. I think if this was made today, the temptation would be to either have her destroy his car or damage his car in some way, which to me, it makes her just as bad as the driver. That's kind of what my feeling is today is, I think everyone in some way, whether you're a man or woman, has experienced toxic masculinity in some form or another. I have, I'm sure you have, Susan. It's just kind of an expression of power. I think shows like, say, Ted Lasso, which I adore, we see how toxic, Ted, of course, is the expression of positive masculinity, of what men should be like. But I think in this case, like I said, Wonder Woman's, the way she deals with it, she deals with it the right way. She just lifts the car, puts it down, and says, hey, next time, have manners, something like that. And
I can't tell you how many times in life I wish I had the capacity to do that, to lift somebody's car up. Right. Or, it's just like you fantasize that, like, in that moment, God, I wish I could just pick someone up, by their collar and like they do in cartoons and just, set somebody straight. But I hear you, like, it wasn't punitive. It was just, she didn't destroy the car. She didn't hurt him. But she set him straight, and I liked that moment a lot, actually.
And I think that's part of the, again, when I said before, this episode, it's 20 years old, but it's still very modern and current and timely. We've got, from my standpoint anyway, and again, I'm taking this as a white male approach, but I got it more of this dude's just lazy and on the clock, doesn't want to move his car. I didn't take it as a, hey, I'm a dude, you be quiet, woman, and I'll move my car when it's ready. I took it more of just a lazy, and I think that's why this whole episode works so well, is because Wonder Woman comes from this place where men aren't allowed, and we see the two sides of the coin. Wonder Woman's compassionate and generous and wants to help, and Arisia is the exact opposite. She wants to destroy everything that is not as it should be, and that's one of the things I love about the episode, is that we've got those... this is a Wonder Woman episode. We have a lot of the supporting cast in it, but I loved this whole Wonder Woman thing. And what struck me at the end in the second episode was all the boys are cleared off the board. And this is this is Hawkgirl and Wonder Woman versus
Wonder Woman.
Orisia and Star Sapphire and Sakura. And I love it. They're given just as good as you would see Batman versus Joker or Superman versus Solomon Grundy. I mean, the fist fight that Susan and I say Susan, that Wonder Woman gets into with Orisia is every bit as good as a Superman Grundy throwdown. And I love that.
100%. I mean, that really resonated with me too. And I loved Maria and I in partnership because our relationship as the only two women of the league, was heavily strained as we go on in the series. So at this point, we're not buds. We're certainly not like quote unquote sisters, but we're working together for, a greater good. And I loved, seeing Maria on Themyscira. And her connection to my mother, those scenes with my mother and Maria, I thought were beautiful. I don't quite agree with you that it was just a guy being like he could have just been a rude. I mean, yes, people are rude out there. There's, all this anger out there, especially road rage. We all, men and women have it. But there was something about not being heard. When somebody's saying, can you do this? And somebody's just saying no. And then it wasn't a male character that stepped up and said, you've got to listen better. It was a female character saying, you've got to listen better. And I just appreciated that. It just, because in my experience, women are not listened to in the same way that men are. We're not heard in the same way. And it was just, I loved that Wonder Woman got to do the correction. It wasn't a man coming in to do the correction. And that I enjoyed that personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel it's also, like I said, it's all about at the second episode, the women getting the focus. I think, not to demean, like I said, I think we've kind of gone backwards. I think there have been attempts, genuine attempts to kind of promote female representation, but doesn't always get it right. I'm sure their intentions are pure. I want to put out specific examples, but I'm sure if we've seen The Boys, they kind of parodied it. I think in the second season, Girls Get It Done. They kind of have, the three women have their own movies, and they have that phrase. I think you don't want to force representation or kind of force female empowerment. It needs to be, it feels genuine and natural. I think this kind of should be the way it's done, if that makes sense.
No, and I think that's one of the brilliance of this storytelling is because at the end, like as I'm watching this, I'm not thinking anything of the fact that, boy, there sure are a lot of female firefighters. I'm not, because I'm so engrossed in the story. I'm like, oh my gosh, they've, and at the end when everyone's fighting, like I said, if I hadn't been watching this critically, because the first time I watched it, this is just people taking care of business. But I think.
See, I was so aware that it was all women because, coming off of the Barbie movie.
Yes.
So that to me I loved that they were all the women. I loved all that stuff. And it just reminded me a lot of the movie and, all the opportunity that's out there in Themyscira and in other places. That really did jump out at me. And it again, I just saw Barbie like 2 weeks ago. so it was like very fresh in my mind.
So okay, that driver pretty much is Ken enough. I guess he is the Ken in this situation.
Can we talk also about the music in this episode and how brilliant the music cues were? Because that really, I just had such a deep appreciation for the music in this. The music cues, where they would come in. Oh, it was beautiful. I just was like, wow. So good. I don't know if the music stood out for either one of you in this, but it did for me.
It always does, especially now that we've had our friends from Dynamic Music Partners on. And ironically, we didn't get to talk to Lolita of the group from the Talking the Music. We'll correct that soon. I promise. Listeners, we will correct that soon. But no, because I think it's one of those things where you really do pay attention to that after you've talked to someone who's been involved with, creating the music and everything. Now I'm listening like, oh, that's kind of an interesting little intro when Hawkgirl's on Themyscira, there's the music when the Amazons notice her and just, I agree. A lot of great musical cues throughout.
Wow, I just wanted to mention that. And also, there was an episode down the road where I'm in a very bad mood. I say, I try to take a day off, and and like I'm almost about to beat somebody up, and I think Batman comes and he stops me from doing it. And it's interesting because, again, that's to me very atypical of what we think of as Wonder Woman. You know, like losing her temper like that. I don't remember that episode. We'll get to it. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Is that Maid of
when
Honor?
She says, I try to take a day off. I try to have, yes, I think.
Or is it the one Hereafter when Superman, is it the, no, I think that's a Flash. No, that's Flash. I was thinking Hereafter when they think Superman has died, but then Flash stops her, I think. But not totally different.
She was about to kill Toyman, and Flash stops her in that
yeah.
one. Yeah. Very, very aggressive Wonder Woman.
She's a very, oh my God.
She is a warrior. The princess and the warrior. So.
Yes, but not a killer.
No. And I got it. One of the quotes, I wrote the quote down because I loved it so much. And I don't know if this is attributable to Stan as the writer, or if this was one of Dwayne's, but it's the acts of one man cannot redeem the sins of his kind. When Diana's trying to talk Arigia down, and Hippolyta's like, please, you can't do this. The man saved you. You're a man's the reason you're alive today. And she has that moment where you wonder, and then she says that quote, and I was like, that is such, what people say to themselves to justify their actions. It's really, and again, I think I'm leaning towards the fact that it's Dwayne's, because you see a recurring theme throughout Dwayne's works of we have to be better people, which is again part of his, and we'll say the word, genius.
But I think I'd love to talk about Arigia. The thing that struck me, like, again, another 20 years later, Dwayne, of course, those who don't know, Black Panther fan, that was a huge influence on him, particularly the 70s storyline, Panther's Rage, which elements were used in the big screen film. Arigia, I just realized, or kind of occurred to me, she's very much like the Michael P. Jordan character Killmonger in the film. They kind of, even their kind of story or their backgrounds are not too dissimilar. And even Themyscira very much is like Wakanda. I don't know, Dwayne was intentionally pulling from his love of Black Panther, but I see now, I'm sure comparisons have been made between Wonder Woman and Black Panther, but this particular episode, the similarities really hit home. Even the film, like, you kind of have to, she questions, even Themyscira and Wakanda have that kind of isolation, theme going on with them, and realization that, we can't just keep to ourselves. We need to be outside, interact with the outside world and bring our compassion and our technology, to the world at large, and not just ignore other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's the comparisons are certainly there, and the fact that the movies were released, like everyone was doing, are you doing the Wonder Woman salute or the Wakanda salute when she does?
Right.
Wonder Woman does the same thing. The comparisons are obvious. The isolationism versus how much do we interact? It's those themes, and he was great with themes. Dwayne was he always had that when you see a story, whether you're reading one of his original stuff from the Milestone universe, or if you're, watching one of his teleplays in the Static Shock cartoons, there's a theme throughout that it draws you in, and it makes you feel like very happy at the end of the story, because it's got this really nice, I don't want to keep saying theme because I sound like a broken record, but it's got this this really nice through line through it that it's just top-notch storytelling. I can see why so many people wanted to work with him. Alan Burnett described him as genius again. Rich Fogel, we talked to him, and he said genius. Like Susan said at the beginning, that's the word that constantly comes up.
Yeah. Because it's like other level, and I think that's what was so profound about the show, and why 20 years later we're all here talking about it and people are still watching it and streaming it, because it had these different, it was multi-layered, and there was really something for the kid who was watching, and there was something for the mom and dad who were watching and are still watching. Yeah. If Comic-Cons are any indication,
sometimes together, the parents and the kid.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the things that I was wondering too, because as I watched this, we see the explosion, but we've also seen Steve Rogers die in a plane crash and come back. I kept wondering, I'm like, I had to go through, I'm like, she never makes a reappearance. I wonder if there was that possibility they left her death. Oh, we see the plane blow up. We don't ever see a body or have any. We kind of have that indication. I wonder if there was any intention to use her again going forward.
Funny enough, this is where I put my nerd hat on this time. There was an issue of the Justice League Adventures comic tie-in, issue 17, I believe, where they actually brought her back, revealing that she lived. It was written by, I believe, Kevin Hobbs, and so she has another plan. So, it's always hard with continuity and canon, but I guess in that comic, they found a way to bring her back, whether or not the show creators intended to. That's another story, but I guess for Rusha fans, we have another story. You guys check it out. Justice League Adventures number 17.
We need that sound cue,
it's funny
Susan.
because I know the geek mode, going into geek mode. But I have to say, I was shocked at the finality of that. Like, oh, she's gone. Because things are always left with a little bit of mystery. Like, is she gone or is she gone? So I was really surprised when they're like, oh, yeah, she's gone.
And for me, again, like I said, the Killmonger comparisons, I think for me, it's fitting if she does die, like Killmonger. Spoilers. I think by now most people have seen or know Black Panther. But, I think it's part of the tragedy of, Killmonger, he can't accept, he has to kill himself because he can't accept living anymore. I think for her story, it really does make sense for her. That's her end, I think. So no disrespect to, just like Avengers number 17, but I think it works better or more poetically if this is indeed her end.
Yeah, I like the finality because like we just got done talking about, and this is not going to make sense for the listeners because we record these out of order, talking about Metamorpho, and the intention was originally there that maybe we won't bring him back. And they changed that at the end because there's that, is he alive, is he? But this struck me as one of those things they're probably not going to, but it's comic books. Nobody dies and stays dead.
It's like soap operas, if I may,
yeah.
Right? If I can bring that up and we maybe can talk about it for the next 15 minutes.
So I was thinking, is Scotty and Lucy's child really dead? Do you think they're going to bring the child back that Lucy supposedly lost on General Hospital?
Okay, so I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm a huge soap fan. Thankfully, James is a little bit of a soap fan himself. So we've been able to bridge our common interests in this. When we have Ken Shriner on, who plays Green Arrow, it's going to be, I'm going to bring up soaps, right?
It'll be half General Hospital, half Justice League. General
League
League
Unlimited.
or Justice Hospital. Yeah, we'll call it one of the two. Taimur, do you have a favorite soap opera?
All I know of soaps is through the film Tootsie. That's kind of all my...
All right. So we're not going to do a deep dive into daytime
Not
today,
no.
obviously.
No.
All right, fine.
Because our next guest is Deirdre Hall. She's going to be on in just about... No, I'm kidding.
Hey, you can't scare me. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Wasn't she Dino Girl or Electrowoman? Didn't she play a superhero?
I bet she did.
We're going down a rabbit hole. Never mind.
Okay, stop. Stop.
But I love talking about these episodes and revisiting, like I said, because I've got a sheet of notes here that I just kept writing stuff down. And I love the button at the end they put on this. It's because it's tragic. We've lost this character. And then at the end, there's the flash to say, too bad she didn't meet me. It would have changed her mind. And he burps really loudly. And they're just looking at him. It's like this great little button at the end of it to kind of, and there we have it. It was the perfect ending.
Right. It was. And
because it's that little
He's
callback
so
to the
Flash.
Paradise Island episode where he's like, this is bogus. And
Yes.
he's hitting all the girls. And it's like, don't make this harder.
He's such a perfect character, and he's so consistent. That's the thing. He's always that guy. And there might not be much of an arc there in terms of somebody was saying how Hawkgirl has the best arc of anybody on the show. And I think she does have a brilliant arc. She really does. Flash is just always Flash. And he can have like a moment of sweetness and sensitivity. Okay, I see you disagreeing. Bring it. Bring your argument.
No, because the episode, for those of you listening, I've got a Chihuahua Terrier named Grimlock, and I put the TV on for him whenever I leave the house. And of course, I always put on HBO streaming service Justice League Unlimited because he'll just sit there and quietly watch. But the episode where they were celebrating Flash Day in Central City, and Batman and Orion, he asked and convinced them to show up because none of his other friends will. And it's a Flash episode, and it shows just how much heart Flash has and what a true hero he is. And Batman even speaks to the fact, because Orion's like, oh, so you play the fool, but you have a hero's heart. He's like, at the end of the day, nobody got hurt, and hey, we still get to celebrate. But it's almost like he has as much of a mask, whether it's intentional or not, as Batman does over Bruce Wayne. So that's the only argument I would say against.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting. I don't know. Like, I feel like the heart is always there, though, and the fool. Like, I feel like they're always there, both inside of him. And I think that there are most of the time we see the fool, and then there are moments where we absolutely see the heart. I don't think that's something he developed or hides necessarily. I think I've always felt that, but maybe I'm projecting onto Michael. Because I love Michael Rosenbaum so much.
Yes, it's interesting because you see all the, like, we all have different takes on this episode. We have different takes on the characters, and I love the fact that people listening hopefully are probably screaming at their podcast device going, "You're totally wrong! Yeah. You don't know what you're..." So I love the fact that we get this and we get to have these conversations, especially when it revolves around a creator as brilliant as Dwayne McDuffie. Is there of the ones that he worked on, or is there a special one of his comic books, or maybe even an episode of Static Shock, like you were talking about, Taimur, that is one of your favorite that you would put up on a pedestal as this is the penultimate Dwayne McDuffie work right here? This is the one I would hold up as the gold standard.
I would say it's hard. Also, Superman, it's hard to say because it's an adaptation of the, brilliant Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely comic book miniseries, but also Superman, that is probably, again, for a lot of reasons, because it was the last work he actually got to see before he passed away, but just in general, what he did, how he kind of really elevated the work. I'm hoping James Gunn brings a lot of it into his Superman, project. But I saw, even though it's still got Grant Morrison's, trademarks, the brand, it really is a Dwayne McDuffie. You can see his touchstones, Dwayne's touchstones and his themes throughout. But also, in a way, Justice League Doom, which is his final one, even though it very much feels like his final, it is pretty much, like I say, it's his kind of, even though he didn't intend it, is kind of his swan song to Justice League. So I think people would love Justice League. I'm sure he didn't intend it, like I said, but Batman kind of departing the league, it very much, obviously Dwayne had no idea, but it very much feels like Dwayne saying goodbye, to the world or to this franchise, even though he didn't really intend it. But those, for a variety of reasons, those kind of mean the most to me, or kind of the ones I put on the pedestal.
Yeah, and Justice League Doom, I believe, is streaming on Max, if anyone out there listening wants to watch that. And I recently watched it, and it was because of everything, right?
Yes.
It had a certain impact on me. It didn't initially, but with Kevin and Dwayne gone, it resonates even more deeply. But in terms of Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, when you think of Dwayne episodes, because you said, I feel like the show really took a while to get on its feet and running after the first season, it did. What were some of your standout episodes of this show, of either Justice League or Justice League Unlimited?
See, definitely, I always look, to me, the Cadmus arc, which Dwayne wrote the entirety of, is just perfection. That's just, it's just brilliant, touches up. It's still relevant. Obviously, it was very much that post 9/11 feelings, those themes. I know I keep saying themes, but, it still like I said, still timeless. It's of the moment, but still timeless. And then, but
that's so important to recognize that. That when were these episodes being written? What was going on in the world? And I'm so glad you mentioned that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So, what were some of the other ones? Dwayne specifically, I'm trying to think. I can pretty much know them off the top of my head, but let's see. I know in season 2. Like I said, I'm sorry I put you on the spot. That's awful. I apologize. That's terrible.
No, I like it. Like I said, it's my trial by fire. It's like you learn these things. I've been doing more podcasts, but I think obviously I don't think Dwayne worked on it, but it was the Justice Lords episode. That's I think again very much post 9/11. You can tell the writers, the creators were definitely influenced by what was happening in the world, and again, I think people still I think really look to that and say, oh, what would happen? It's just we see this all the time, a corrupt Justice League, but we see, I think the way they handled it, still was just really hit me hard, or kind of, it just, you see what they would do to the world, if they took power or kind of went to the dark side, as it were.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I have to say, for your first podcast, you did good.
Nice.
It's nerve-wracking, and especially if you've never done it before. And even though the audience is only hearing the audio, we're actually recording this with video. And I think that makes it even more nerve-wracking sometimes. So, well done, you. And thank you for, I think it was so special that you reached out to me and said, I mean, we're friends anyway. We've met each other. We talk online all the time, but that you said, I'd love to do this. And it was very special having somebody from Dwayne's camp, come forward and speaking on his, and not for him, because obviously you're not presuming to do that, but to just represent him, if you will.
Yeah, totally.
So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I'm surprised. There's always a part of nervousness. Oh no, how am I doing? It's funny. I'm reading a brilliant book on the history of Siskel and Ebert. I love them, but how their pilot of the show was a complete disaster. They didn't know how to project on camera. And so, but over time, they really kind of figured it out, and to the point where it became this huge brand and really entertaining, as it were.
Oh gosh. I mean, very few people come out of the gate brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, some do. Obviously, Dwayne did, but most of us have to learn on the job and get more comfortable as we do it more and more and more. So, I'd say James, I'd say for his first time, pretty good, huh?
I would say knocked it out of the park. And before we let you go too, we should let everyone know if they want to find out more about you and the work you do, both for Comics Beat and for Dwayne McDuffie's social media. Tell people the best places, websites, and social media handles where they can find you and find out more about Dwayne if they want.
So my on Twitter, X, Instagram, Bluesky, it's all consistent. Taimur, Taimur, Odar, throughout. It's consistent throughout. For Dwayne, it's D McDuffie page on Twitter /X. On Instagram, it's Dwayne Glenn McDuffie, 2 N's. Dwayne Glenn, 2 N's, McDuffie. Facebook, Dwayne McDuffie page.
But this has been brilliant to talk to you. Thanks for your insights on Fury, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
Yes, can't wait. I'm particularly excited for season 2. Hopefully season 2. Can't wait. Like I said, those are I think it really gets going, and Justice League Unlimited. Those I'm kind of eager to get to. Or hey, if you guys ever do Justice League Doom or Crisis on Two Earths, I'd be down for that.
All right.
Okay, terrific. Thank you so much, and you have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Be well. Nice to meet you.
Bye.
How about that? Our first Dwayne McDuffie episode that we got to cover, which was fun.
And another super fan.
But
right? Because he is a huge fan of the franchise, of all of these comics, cartoons, and mostly of Dwayne McDuffie.
But it's kind of interesting because I was wondering, do we count him as a super fan, or do we count him as an expert on Dwayne McDuffie? Because it sounds like he is if you were to go to somebody for expert knowledge. I mean, he whipped out that Justice League Adventures 18, and I was like,
I know.
I had to put my hands up. I'm like, okay, you got me on that one, dude. Well done.
I know. I felt the same way, but I didn't really know what he was talking about. But sure, no, I agree with you. But all right, so why don't we say he's both? He's a super fan and he's an expert, and he represents, he brings the Dwayne McDuffie insights, which, listen, I can't get enough of those as far as I'm concerned.
I know you're more friends with Charlotte because, like I said, she very graciously followed me on social media, so we retweet each other's stuff, but you know her more.
Yeah.
Would she be up for coming on? Because it'd be a great one. I'm not sure how comfortable she feels about that, but that'd be fun to talk to her too. As we were doing this interview, I kept thinking Charlotte really needs to come on. And we have some really great, episodes coming up of Dwayne's, and I will absolutely reach out to her. Yeah.
And I think, I'm hoping she'll do it. She'll say, sure, I'd love to. That's on my to-do list.
All right. I feel like I'm adding your to-do
down.
list all the time. I feel like I'm constantly making your to-do list longer and longer.
you know what? For this podcast, I love it. I love it. I mean, I'm so here for all of it. So keep giving me stuff to do, as far as I'm concerned.
But
that was lovely.
Yeah.
And he was terrific. He was very nervous, and which I understand completely. But he's so dear, and he's always been so sweet to me on social media, and he introduced himself to me at a con, and I was like overjoyed to meet him because we had communicated so much online. So it was very sweet having him on the show.
And he's got that perfect mix of just a wealth of knowledge about the subject, but the passion and exuberance you can see in his face when he's talking about it. And I love that combination in a fan.
Absolutely. And he's a fan of movies, of television, of writing, of, all the genres. And so you can hear his references. He'd refer to this movie or, that sitcom across the board. He loves the entertainment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm really happy we had him on. Me
too. And it's always good to talk about Dwayne McDuffie whenever we get the chance, because it seems like every guest we have on ends up talking about Dwayne McDuffie anyway, it's kind of hard his name is so synonymous with animation in this arena, and all the stuff he's done. And gosh, just what an amazing talent. Another one that we just lost way too soon. Way too soon. Exactly. I mean, he was a young man. Yeah. And so that makes it even more heartbreaking because what was ahead for him. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? And no, I can't. So, So another one in the books, right? Another one in the can. No, it's in the can. That's how coffee comes. Coffee comes in a can. So. Wow. I really need a sound effect for that one. That was bad. Oh, woof. Okay, yeah, my dad
make
used
a
to
note
drink
of that.
Folgers in the can. So, okay, I'll take that out right now. Putting a note. We will delete.
Bad joke.
Folgers joke. 109. All right. But it's always fun, and I love the fact that we get to do this. We get to talk about Justice League, the series that you were in, and I love that this was a Wonder Woman episode. And if people want to find out more about the voice of Wonder Woman, where do they keep up with you? Where do they find you? Where do they learn more about you? Oh, you mean me? You? Okay. So across all platforms, Susan Eisenberg 1, and my website, SusanEisenbergVoice.com. So if you're looking for any of these episodes of the podcast, they're on my website as well as being on Apple and Spotify and everything else. And we always encourage people, please subscribe to the podcast. And please, if you're willing and you have a couple of minutes, leave a review for us because we want to hear what the feedback is from the show. So, yeah, please do that. And where can people find you, mister? I am also all over social media. So Twitter and Instagram at Geek2Me Radio. On Facebook, just go to facebook.com/geek2me radio. YouTube's what I'm trying to really press right now. So if you're listening and you have a YouTube or a Google account, I should say, head over there, find Geek to Me Radio on YouTube, and subscribe to us there. We're trying to hit our next benchmark for subscribers, and we do a live radio show every Sunday night covering the world of pop culture, and you can tune in 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And if you are subscribed to us on YouTube, when we go live with video, you'll get a little notification saying, hey, new show's coming on. And we had a lot of people texting my guest this past time. We just had Nicole Maines from Supergirl, and she's writing Dreamer currently. I'm not even kidding, Susan, we had people texting us from the Philippines, from Australia, and it was absolutely insane. But so, yeah, wherever you're listening to us, hopefully you can stream us online, Geek to Me Radio. And obviously, wherever you're listening to this, hopefully you subscribe to the podcast. And like Susan said, leave us a 5-star review, and we do appreciate that as well. Right. Absolutely. I didn't say leave us a 5-star review. I'm telling people to do it. I'm demanding. I'm the cranky one now. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, okay. All right. So everybody out there listening, just please stay tuned because the conversation continues.